Welcome back to the Performance Prescription Podcast. As we kind of get on a roll here, as we've been doing this now for a number of months, it's really exciting to see different sides of healthcare. And I'm really excited to dive in with Kate today. But I want to welcome Matt back as our host. How have you been?
Doing good, Jared. Doing good. We're going through a heat wave in Maine right now. It's actually broke 90 degrees, which is unusual for Maine, but we will suffer through it.
Well, Matt, we might have to compare because this might be one of those rare times where the temperature in Phoenix isn't as hot as Maine. That I don't know what that tells us. So
Yeah, something's
interesting.
not right. Something's not right.
Something's not right. Well, let's make it right. Let's welcome our guest today. Let's welcome Kate. As we do that, Matt, I would like to ask you what you hope to hear about or maybe focus on during the interview.
Yeah, I really like and respect and enjoy getting to talk to Kate. We always have a good time together. So very excited about having her on the podcast today. And what really made me want to invite Kate on was all the work that she and her team are doing in their community. So really excited about digging into community engagement today and how Capital Health is making a real positive impact and impacting health journeys across their entire region.
All right, Kate, let's bring you on. Welcome to the show.
You. And then it's 93 here in New Jersey. So it's awful. It's
It's not a competition, Kate. Not a competition.
very, it's very hot. And leather seats, not a good idea this time of year.
No, no.
All right, well, I just checked 86 in Phoenix, y'all. So I don't know what's going on.
I
Yeah.
guarantee your humidity is less too, so
Yes.
it's not good.
Very true.
So Kate, thank you again. I have a lot I want to dig into with you today, but how about just out of the gate, why don't you just intro yourself, tell us a little about your role and really how you got into healthcare marketing because you've been doing this for a long time. You have a ton of great experience.
So I'm Kate Stier. I'm the Director of Public Relations and Community Outreach for Capital Health. I've been doing this 30 years. So I've been doing this type of work for 30 years. I have a degree in English education, and I went from teaching to healthcare, and I went back and got my master's in marketing and public relations. So I kind of fell into the community outreach realm because I've always worked in hospitals. Most big hospitals are in cities. So I've always worked in some sort of outreach aspect in public relations. And as my career proceeded to grow, my outreach continued to be more of a need, especially after COVID.
Yeah, that was a big shift for a lot of systems, obviously. So we'll dig into more of that the community outreach. But before we get into that, when we spoke last time, one of the things that you said really kind of stuck out to me, and I'm hearing this as a theme in a lot of people that we're talking to, which is great. But you said, and I don't want to misquote you, but you said that part of why you're in healthcare is that you need to live your mission.
That's true. I honestly don't think I would be doing anything else. Healthcare is very important to me because I came from Shriners Children's Hospital. I went to a burn hospital, and now I'm working in a trauma hospital in the city of Trenton. And I'm a firm believer that you need to live your mission. So I'm out there on the weekends and evenings, making sure the insured, underinsured, and uninsured are all covered appropriately or getting preventative care because that's really what the crux is to keep them healthy and out of the hospital and helps everyone thrive. I am very involved with other organizations on my Donate Life and all that outside of my job because every day for me is making healthcare better for somebody else.
That's awesome. And yeah, you've told me before about some more of your, extracurricular activities and you are never bored for sure.
Never. Nah.
So then, thinking about the idea of, living your mission, you mentioned a little bit already, but then how does that fit into Capital Health as a whole? So how does Capital Health support that type of mindset?
So we service central New Jersey, which is a thing. A lot of people don't think that is. So it's Mercer County, Bucks County, Burlington County. So we serve a large area. And part of what I do is I also publish 2 magazines and a podcast that get into 60,000 homes 6 times a year. And the reason we do that is because At the end of the day, we know that women tend to make the healthcare decisions. Sorry, guys. So we publish Real Woman magazine, which is 80 pages, and we work really hard to make sure that we do almost a good housekeeping. We cover health and fitness, we cover lifestyle stories, survival stories, but we're your experts. We're your ads. So we're doing some marketing, but it's not hardcore marketing. We lace it, making my doctor the expert or making, us the place to call. And the nice thing about both publications is that we are really starting to get some unbelievable cover stories and pieces that are internationally and nationally well received. And I'm finding that my numbers are growing because people are interested. And I love that people still like to get magazines in the mail. That makes me happy.
And it's kind of funny, Kate, like whenever you started first talking to me about the work you're doing in the community, you were talking about the screenings and the whatnot that we'll get into. And I kind of stumbled across the magazine just, on accident. I'm like, oh wait, Kate is publishing a magazine. It turns out it's two magazines actually.
Yeah.
And they're both really, really high quality. How does that fit into the overall mission? I think you've talked a little bit already, but how does that fit into the overall mission of Capital Health? And then what does your leadership team think about the work you're doing on these magazines specifically?
So my magazine's 15 years old, meaning that I always say that we're accidentally progressive. And I had a really good boss before the one I currently have that always encouraged us to kind of think outside the box. So he was very supportive of the publication. And then my new leader, she's very supportive and she feels that it's as important as any ad or any billboard or commercial because it really does provide a wealth of information and knowledge. Additionally, I'm in the community a couple times a week with my nurses. I have a large team and many of them are nurses. And we go into the areas within the city of Trenton and around to do blood pressure screenings or glucose screenings to kind of make sure folks are getting the attention they need. And if not, where to send them. Do a lot of kind of just getting out there and constantly touching the community because it's so important.
Yeah. So I want to get into some of the impact the community screenings are having here in a moment. But you just said, and we talked previously, you have nurses on your team, which is not common, at least to my knowledge, not common on the marketing side of things to have nurses reporting into into a community outreach director. Tell me a little bit about how that came about and what the nurses think about that.
So we grew. When I first started, I was the marketing director and public relations director for the healthcare system. And our needs got so big that my colleague was recently promoted to director of marketing, which is well deserved. He's a very talented marketing director. And then they split my job. And I started doing more and more community outreach, which was just a tiny segment covering health fairs and going to walk runs and it grew. And my tiny segment started to take over 80% of my job. And I now do that in public relations, meaning all the news releases and all the media that come through the hospital. And I do have a handful of nurses who report to me. And the nice part is all of the nurses that currently report to me are retired. So they've come back because they've got something to offer and they're bright and they're really on the ball and they have their finger on the pulse of the community. So they work for me either part-time or per diem as an on-needed basis. And they're fantastic because they're still being able to go into the community and do what they love, but it's not bedside, it's not long hours, and I'm very lucky. I've had the same team for 10 years, so I don't get turnover, and no one's allowed to retire. So
Yeah,
not
they've already done it once. They don't need to do it
yeah,
again.
not until I retire. But everyone here is fantastic. So we're very fortunate to have a very tight knit department, which is almost unheard of today. So, and we work hard. I go with them and I'm useless. I can only sign people up and file stuff. My nurses will do all the blood pressure screenings and all the health screenings that are necessary. And then I help them get the information back. And we report all of our statistics to the state of New Jersey because this way we're proving that we are a nonprofit. We're doing what needs to be done in the community. I also report a lot of my findings out to the various health departments in the immediate area in Mercer County because that way they know that we're out there and we're getting the information out there and we're trying to provide preventative care. So it's very important.
Yeah. Yeah. And You shared some of the numbers with me because I always at like how is this impacting the system? How's this impacting the community? And so I'm probably not gonna get these numbers exactly right, but it
It's
looks
closer to
like
what I have, so it's fine.
yeah, as from what I'm seeing, the number of activities that's going on in the community has increased 30% year over year over year. And I think the number of screenings you're doing has 10x over the past 4 years, meaning you're doing 10 times more screening this year than you did 10 years ago, which is, I mean, that's unbelievable and so beneficial. So can you tell us a little bit about why are they so successful? Why are so many of the
It's
community
twofold.
members coming out? Yeah.
We're growing and people are starting to respect us as the hospital to go to and the people to see. But also, I have an amazing staff that is on it. And COVID, a lot of people put off their screenings and not taking care of themselves. So the world's opened back up again. So we have that. But leadership is so supportive and so passionate about touching the lives in the city of Trenton. They have made it voluntarily mandated that all leadership must do 2 community events a year. So I have the support of my physicians and my leadership to be at 2 events a year, which is huge because I have help. I have nursing directors out in the community. It's important because they're in an office all day or they're running the floor, but they're back and they're seeing what I'm doing on the ground. So that makes it really worth all the work. Also, we have nursing ladders here, so nurses get credits for volunteering, and it goes towards their evaluations and their salary increases. So my nursing staff within the healthcare system will volunteer to help my nursing staff out in the field. So I'm getting a lot of support because the hospital supports it and they reward those who give back. And that's huge. That's almost unheard of.
And
Yes.
then, like you said a moment ago, you've been doing this consistently now, and the people in the community are seeing you and knowing this isn't just a one-time thing. Like, hey, they're out in the community, they know what they're doing, and they're showing up. That means they care.
Yeah. I'm getting to the point where people know where to go for the community outreach. And it's really rewarding. Within the healthcare system, we do urban health, and it's great because we're reaching out to the needs and we're getting things done.
But Jared, you know me, I could go on and on, but I want to give you a chance to interject and ask any questions that you might have come up with along the way.
I think the one that comes to mind is just operationally, like what helps this succeed? Because clearly you've got the passion and the mission and the background, the team to do it. Operationally, how are you keeping it going? Because I feel like everyone in this space is constantly having to ask, "Oh, is there a new tool I'm supposed to use now? Is there a new way I'm supposed to do things? Is this way that we've been doing things still the right way to do it?" And maybe it's just in certain circles, but when you talk about like the day to day, how you keep things working, how does that continue to be so successful?
I think it's because I communicate well with my staff. My staff has very specific jobs and they're very good at those jobs and I'm not going to get involved. So I trust them, I trust their numbers, and I trust their data. And I will assist when needed, but I also give them the power to run their own ship. I don't get involved. But then I have a lot of leadership support, which is also huge. So if I'm having a problem with an event or not communicating well to others, I can go to my direct supervisor and say, "This is the problem." And she'll say to me, "Let me think on it. I'll get back to you in 24 hours." And then together we work it out. So as big as we are, we work very small too. There's not a lot of channels that I have to cut through to get things accomplished.
What I'm hearing is the answer isn't always, I found a better technology to do this. Like
No,
this is still very much a people based process and
absolutely.
operation.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, we use the tools we need to get the stats and the figures and the numbers, but at the end of the day, that's the end of it. There's a lot of work that goes into before we get there.
I definitely think there's a lot that other systems could be learning from what you're doing and how you're making an impact in the community, but also thinking about your longevity in your career and your passion and commitment. So if you were to rewind 20, 30 years and give, young Kate some advice or even just, a new person starting out in the healthcare marketing industry, what advice would you give for someone getting started?
So I will say I'm all for work-life balance, have that
I don't
family.
believe you.
Have that family. I'm go on those vacations. I vacation 3 or 4 times a year. And, you know, I put my outer office on just like everybody else. I'm guilty of checking it, but I certainly try. But in the very beginning, don't say no, and don't think anything's beneath you because it's not. I've stood in parking lots for hours in the heat, and it's just because everything you do is about networking, getting to know the right people, oh, showing them that you're a worker, you know your business, and you might be vice president material, but until you do the grunt work to get there and you make the right contacts and you put the hours in, you're not graduating college and being a vice president. We would all love that. I've made terrible money. I've worked 3 jobs at once, but at the same time, it's just all about keeping your head down, working. Don't lie. Always be honest. Like never try to dance around it or sell yourself as something you're not. Just be honest with yourself and get out there. So I think because I've had pretty good bosses through my career. I've had pretty strong, powerful women who've engaged and promoted me to be strong and never told me no if I could prove it. So I've had a fortunate background that way. Yeah, that's kind of the only advice I have. Is just show them that you've earned this and work hard for it.
That's great, Kate. So I think it's showing up, doing the work, raising your hand for more work, and you've had the benefit of being surrounded by good leaders and good mentors. So I think if you don't have good leaders and good mentors, there's a lot of people out there. So go find good leaders and mentors.
Exactly, and volunteer, like, if you find that you're not getting fulfillment from your job, I was a copy editor right out of college, and it was dreadful. So, I volunteered I volunteered at other organizations, and I found my passion through volunteering, and I found what I love through volunteering, and that helped me promote to my professional career, and I think that's just you have to find it, but you have to look for it. You can't wait for someone to drop it off at your front store, your stoop. You can tell I'm from, like, the Philadelphia region, but, that's a step, yeah, so
And that's great, Kate. And thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your experience and your passion, and really thank you for all the work that you're doing in Central New Jersey. You're obviously making an impact. Capital Health is making an impact, and definitely looking forward to staying in touch and seeing how you continue to grow.
great.
Thanks so much, Kate.
Thank you.